Hello, Rachel.
How are you, my sweetie?
Oh, I'm doing very well. Have I been a good boy?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, I'm glad to hear that. I've been a good member of the team. I know how to use my skills
You've
when
earned your
needed.
place.
I've earned my spot. Oh, thank God. I've always wanted a job as a sexer. Rachel, that was the sci-fi term they used for sex worker in this show. Just take it in. Just absorb that into your mind. But no, I'm doing very well. I'm excited, happy, thrilled to be back here with you. But how are you doing overall?
All right. But what are we here to do this time, Ryan?
Do you know?
Yeah, I do.
Do you
And
know?
if people have read the description, they also know. But just in case.
We are here, Rachel, to talk about some science fiction television, one episode at a time. And we are looking at the series Killjoys. I have seen the show before, but only once, and I've never done a rewatch of it. I saw it when it was initially airing. And you have never seen the show before, so you are coming at this as a first timer. So, everyone out there listening, don't you worry. This is going to be a non spoiler filled podcast in terms of the future of given episodes. We'll talk about what happened in the episode that we watched in all of its gooey, juicy, gory, sexy, funny details. But we are Yum Yum Podcast. And where does that name spawn from, Rachel? Why is that the name of a podcast about a husband and wife team reviewing episodes of sci-fi TV?
Well, it's not about us.
Are you sure?
It's from us more. Like, it's not. We're not here to talk about us.
Sometimes we talk about ourselves, give
Yeah,
a
but
little
that's
bit more
not
detail.
the primary purpose. Semantics are important. And sometimes I complain about things that don't really matter because I'm an English teacher.
And a nerd. That's what the nerds are for.
That's me, baby. Yum Yum has its origins in Star Trek Discovery, a show by technicality said a character, I should say, said in Discovery also by technicality, yum yum. Now, that was not in relation to food. That was in relation to a proposition to go kill an antagonist. Made no sense whatsoever and was oddly sexual.
But it was funny. It was oh so random and oh so quirky and oh so fun. But, Rachel, what episode of Killjoys did we watch? Do you recall the name of it?
Was it Sugar Point Run or The Sugar Point Run?
It's The Sugar Point Run. That's right. It is The Sugar Point Run. This is Killjoy Season 1, Episode 2, and is my time to do a description of said episode. So, in The Sugar Point Run, it is up to Davin to pull his shit together and actually become a member of the team. And aren't they? Oh, Rachel, they're so lucky because the company has hired them personally to save the mayor's daughter, who has been kidnapped by some terrorists on this shithole that has been ruined by the company. So it is up to Davin, Johnny, and Dutch to fly over there on Lucy, the ship who can talk and has some fun quips to give us.
That's way more
to
detail.
go do the job, Rachel. But wouldn't you know it, shenanigans ensue, action scenes happen, and Davin and Dutch form a cooperative, healthy work relationship by the end of the episode, and Johnny is there too.
Why are you lying?
That's what the episode's about. It's about them forming a healthy working relationship. That's what the real takeaway of it is. It's about them understanding what one another offer to this position and realizing the pros and cons.
Yeah, and it really is just
synergy.
Them two, because it's not about the three of them.
Hey, don't forget Lucy. 4 of them. There's 4 of them on this crew.
The 3 human beings. Now we've had that definitely not long-winded summary from Ryan. Let's check in with the people behind this particular episode. It was directed by Chris Grismer. Is that how you say it?
You're all about the specificity, so you know more than me.
You were the one that looked up how he said his own name.
That's correct.
And it was written by Jeremy Boxon, who, as a writer, has 19 credits. No stuff that we've watched, but he wrote an episode of Orphan Black.
You say it like there's foreign words to you. Orphan Black? What are those?
I thought there was an episode of Black Mirror too. That was why I was like,
He's not British, so he didn't write it. Lost Girl he worked on, which is the previous show by this series creator. Lots of Canadian random mishmash. Some weird kind of exploitative horror films, it looks like.
But he also wrote for Degrassi, The Next Generation.
Yeah, like I said, a bunch of Canadian fun stuff. Did that have did he write for Drake?
He wrote the episode called Money for Nothing from 2008.
And that had Drake in it?
Drake isn't the top cast.
He wasn't in the show the whole way through, so he probably wasn't there.
He's not coming up. I feel like he would be like the top cast.
Well, you said this is Degrassi, The Next Generation.
Yeah.
Maybe he was only in the first generation of that show. I'm not a Degrassi high person.
I feel like that's too old to be Drake, though.
I mean, think about how old Drake is.
Mm-hmm.
If he was a kid in 2008, he would be our age, Rachel.
True. But there you go. Probably didn't write for Drake.
At least in terms of television. Maybe he wrote him some lyrics.
Yeah, that's a possibility. It's also a possibility that I wrote for Drake's lyrics with that kind of...
Only if you're a certain age, Rachel. He only likes girls of a certain age.
What made you laugh this episode, Ryan? Because that comment didn't make me laugh. But you know what did? Because we do the yum yum laugh for this series. We bring the yum yum to each series. And this time we're asking, what made us laugh this episode for when we're doing Killjoys? And I laughed, or the joke that I enjoyed the most was, how does he phrase it? It's a great phrase. Peace torch accepted is how Johnny responds when Dutch gives him some gear that is also an act of appeasement.
It's a nice little moment of back and forth. I, of course, chose the best line. The great line.
Rattled ovaries?
Yeah. When asked if the ship was the one that got shot down, Dutch said it rattled an ovary or two, but nothing I can't shimmy back into place. I laughed, and you did not when we were watching it. You were not very happy. And then I said, hey, it's written by a woman, which apparently it wasn't. It's weird. I can kind of sense it wasn't, weirdly enough. But I just thought Michelle would have written the second episode. But she handed it off immediately after doing the pilot. After the first episode, Michelle needed a little bit of a lie down. And she handed it off to someone who has written the best line of the show. I wonder if we'll beat Rattled an Ovary or two.
Well, you've watched it before.
Yeah, but, I'm wondering now, rewatching it, that is a great line. Will there be a line better than that? You weren't a fan of that particular one.
No, I was not. It just didn't seem funny to me. It's just like, because men complain about their testicles. So it read feminism. She's complaining about her ovaries.
It just rattled one or two. She'll shimmy them back into place. Is that how you do it? Do you shimmy them back into place? Is that how it works?
No!
But Dutch is trained.
No,
She's good at close combat.
They're just fucking kind of floating in there anyway. They're not really attached to anything. Thus, you get the sperm graveyard.
Oh, thank you, Rachel. The sperm graveyard was actually
that's a leap to something else, but it was connected in my brain, and
Okay.
I don't know if that made sense to anybody else.
It was the working title for this episode, Sperm Graveyard. But they said, no, we can't put that in. The censor won't allow graveyard. We'll allow
that
sperm.
Thing that Dutch takes out of the guy that dies.
Mm-hmm. That could have been the sperm graveyard.
It looks like it could have been a fake testy, though.
They were playing around with, like, it being a testicle because they said it was a smuggler's nut was the colloquial term, the slang term for that device.
Info bandits sometimes use a device. It's called a smuggler's nut.
It's an episode that's best summed up to me as, on paper, this works. But when brought to life on the screen the way it was, it does not. There's many conversations.
Lackluster.
Yeah, it's lackluster. There's many conversations. There's even many little action bits that are communicated across successfully. I don't mind what they're going for in terms of getting Davin to be a part of the crew, get him on a mission where Dutch and him are teamed up together specifically because he has to earn her trust more than he has to earn Johnny's trust to be in this team because she's the boss. And what does a former soldier look like in the bounty hunting role? Is that an easy transference of skills, or do you have to adapt? All of that I like. I like the beginning of the episode with the company guy and talking about quad politics.
Hills.
Yeah, Hills, he was good. I like the ending with Pri at the bar and the talking about, being a lowlife is just the standard around here. There's many great moments, but it makes a lot of sloppy mistakes, not just in terms of their low budget of production, but the more I think about it, the more it's just like, this was a little bit of a narrative shortcut for the sake of functionality. But they're things that I can see getting ironed out over the course of time, or at least getting a little bit more of a finesse in there. Just the way that social commentary was delivered was a little bit just not even heavy-handed, but more just it was put in there because you have to have an episode say something rather than just be an episode of TV.
Yeah, that did stick out like a sore thumb. And it was very... Yeah, like ham-fist is not the right phrase. Clunky is a polite way to put it, I think. I got kind of frustrated with this episode at points because I also had that sense of like the script for this sold the show and did all of these things that it needs to do, but it just didn't fully get up. And that made me enjoy some things less and appreciate some choices more, because they did put more effort, energy, or money into some things over others. But the main reason that I was like very about this episode was the fact that it felt more burdened by the needs of setting up the show than the first episode did. Like, that feels more frustrating than maybe like in other shows, because I did enjoy the first episode and the way that it handled the setup of the world and the dynamics. But this one feels sort of perfunctory, maybe is the word.
It's a necessary evil of an episode. We have to get to this point, but how do we get there? And the
show being like, what job is Johnny gonna get? He could do this thing. And then he's like, I could do this thing. And it's just like, well, you're gonna become a Killjoy. Why are you fucking bothering to do this?
It's one of those, like, choose a sci-fi plot and insert here. Choose a bounty story plot and insert here. And neither of those things are given the depth needed, but you could argue that they don't need to. They're just a framework to hang the character stuff on for Davin to become the third member of this team. But the stuff that you get with Davin and Dutch is bordering on, like, great, but most of the time it's okay. Like, oh, that's an okay bit. Oh, that's a pretty good exchange of ideas or clashing of world beliefs between the two. But
you were
nothing
more favorable on it than I was.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, nothing about it is great. It is functional.
Yes. Yeah, like I would say that it is functional, which for me is a few steps down the ladder from great.
But I do want to credit, like, why I say it borders on great is there's some great exchanges. There is some wonderful acting between the two of them. Like, I buy the growth from the 45 within the 45 minutes because of their performances, because of the script, but it's just
that's true.
All the stuff around it is just okay. So it evens out into this weird space where it just keeps bouncing up and down.
We need to do this thing and it needs to have time and space to do it. And they give that plot those things. But just because it takes the whole episode to get there. And it's just like, no surprises. It's just like, yeah, we've already seen that Davin has a bunch of skills that would be useful as a Killjoy, and that he doesn't know how to work within the scope of that job description, because he is trained to be a soldier.
And he's also riddled with some form of PTSD, so there's an aggression to his
call
style.
It by the name.
Battle brain. But he also brings a form of aggression to the job that he may not do when he was an actual soldier. We don't know. But it's not
kills so many people this episode.
And it's not even about him killing people. It's about him also disobeying Dutch in front of other people when she's clearly the top dog in the room. And so it's like he is undermining the situations, which is, again, that's...
Partner boss.
Yeah, that's what Johnny says. Yeah. But... like Davin, he doesn't want to abide by that. He wants to be the one that calls the shots. He wants to be the one that says, I'll put you down if you try to put me down. And he doesn't want to compromise. And she's all about trying to find the compromises in these moments, but he doesn't want to do it like that. There's the more dramatic stuff, the more interesting stuff in the episode when it comes to Davin finding his place. It's not so much about how can a soldier figure out how to be a killjoy? Because, shooting guns and being able to look at vantage points for snipers is great and all, but what are the things that are lacking about those skills that you can't easily just transfer over to this job, which on paper, again, could be seen as like one-to-one easy? And I think the episode does do a good job of seeing how his perspective and his attitude does need some refining to be here. And by the end of the episode, he finds that in some form. But it's not as if he's totally shiny, clean, fits the mold, easy.
He's not done with that journey. But it's just like, well, yeah. And he does it, and it's just a thing that happens, and I'm not invested or interested in it.
Is it because he's your least favorite of the three as a character? Because you weren't really into him last episode, and this is obviously a Davin-centric episode. Even though Dutch has stuff to do, it's much more about him.
I think it is because... I know the destination, and I was not interested in the journey. The concept and the power structure and the power struggle that is being presented in this episode, those are kind of interesting. But it's done in a very baby's first structural... poverty kind of way. What's the word I'm looking for? Structural inequality. Like, it's just very basic, and the evil people are evil.
Yes.
And they're campy level evil, but then the show also tries to indicate that, Rio wasn't always like this. We used to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, well, okay. Do we get to see, do we get to feel any of that? Because we hear that from a man who is, ready to die.
He's already dead, basically.
Yeah, feels like he's heading to his death, right? Because he's been poisoned by this,
the smuggler's nut.
Smuggler's nut. I was like, I remember it's nut, and you just said it.
Mm-hmm.
But fucking hell, how could I forget smuggler's nut? This has been eating away at him.
She put it in him.
She put it in him. Her, the sister is poisoning him. There's layers to that. There's interesting aspects to that. And it gets that one scene, really.
Yeah, but it's intriguing that...
And it's something that's there. But then I feel like other stuff undercuts it, and I'm already moving away from talking about
That's exactly what I was going to say. It's intriguing that you want to go back to the plot. Because the episode and the character stuff, it's all too one of the same. It's
very intertwined and woven together, and I appreciate that being the case. It doesn't feel like it's doing one or the other. There's thought and intention that has been put in to make these things work together.
It's just too obvious.
How are you for ammo?
Drained. didn't wonder why I was throwing finger grenades for the last 2 floors?
Figured you were a blow-up shit kind of guy.
I don't mind Davin, but I'm not as intrigued by him as the other characters. I'm not.
But I'm like, there's not a whole lot that they've set up for Johnny to do other than be Davin's brother.
I think it's just because he's more fun of a character.
Yeah, like personality-wise, but plot-wise, Johnny is the only character at the moment in the trio that his problems only relate internally to, like, the three of them.
He's the only one
Right.
without a secret, mysterious past.
Yeah, like, we know that he has a past and there's lots of things that we don't know about him.
But that's not where his conflict
But-
is from.
And there's not something that he's running away from, where that is the case with Dutch and with Davin. But there's, like, with Davin, there's now the suggestion that he may be running towards something as well as away from it.
You know what's great about doing a podcast is we're talking about this stuff, and as we're going through it and as you're laying it out, you're actually making me think about Johnny more and like him more, because I actually think it's like, this isn't something I was thinking about when watching the episode. But now saying this, it actually makes me think about how fascinating of a position it is for the guy in the middle. He is stuck in the middle where the two people he cares about most are lying to him and hiding their past. And he knows it, and he can't do anything about it because they have to sort it out themselves.
Control. And he has to trust them to sort their own shit out, even though it's impacting him.
Yeah.
And that's why I found the scene where he is talking with Dutch without talking about what's going on.
Yeah.
And how the actors really communicated to me the sense that Johnny is uncomfortable saying it, but he's uncomfortable not saying it.
Mm.
So then he says it without saying it.
He communicates across the point, but he doesn't press on it too hard.
He doesn't call her out or challenge her. It's just like, hey,
You need to square shit away.
yeah, and this is on you. I'm seeing this. You gotta do this. And she's like, yeah,
But
I
yeah.
gotta do that. I'm gonna go deal with that.
And what I truly appreciate too is we have seen his character be very much the devil may care. He grins in the face of danger. It's a laugh.
He loves
for him.
tech.
Yeah, he's a dweeb. He's a
Yeah.
nerd, and he's the comedic one. But when it comes to these moments here, and this is not just through the performance, but through the writing, he is serious. He gives an ultimatum, but he does so still with a light touch. Like, he does look at her and say, you need to square this shit away or things won't be good with us. But there's still a sensitivity there. But then you contrast that with how he treats Davin, his own brother, but he has solid justifications and a long history for why he is openly hostile to Davin. But he's faced with two people on the ship who are lying to him or withholding information that would make their relationship stronger. And you see how differently he treats them. And it just says so much about the relationships. But that's just a small cog in this episode, but it is one that is clicking along as we go through it, because Johnny overall in this episode doesn't have much to do. He does. He has to fix the ship. I actually remarked when we were watching it, oh, do you like seeing a guy just fix wires for 40 minutes? Because that's all he's doing.
Yeah, he gets to have a little adventure of his own and possibly kill some people.
Oh, definitely. Well, yeah, I can't remember if they have a throwaway line. It's like, oh, they're just unconscious. But he definitely was going to murder them.
That's why I was like,
It was self-defense.
Yeah. Yeah. And that being different was set up in the first episode, so you can't hold it against him, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. I don't know why I'm getting so hung up on the violence in this show that's called Killjoys.
It's because they play a bit fast and loose with it, but I don't think that's by accident. Because Dutch and Johnny, say that they don't kill people outside of self-defense, but where do you draw the line of what self-defense is? For Davin, he doesn't see it that way. He sees it, well, he does. He sees it as preservation. He doesn't mind the violence. You know what drives me up the wall about it, though, is you think it's going to come up in ways, and it does, and then it doesn't. Because at the end of the episode, Davin makes a choice. He makes a choice, and there's no comment on it. He rigs the missile that these crime lords have, and it kills them all. And Johnny was coming into that scenario with a solution, a peaceful solution, one that actually would have benefited them financially speaking, as well as technologically speaking. Like, oh, I could take the missile and we could salvage it and we could take it apart. We could do this, and this. And Davin just says, nah, I've already sorted it. And he just kills everyone. And there's no conflict there. There's no, hey, mister, you shouldn't have done that. And then it's like, like a little button on the end of like, oh, look.
And we do get other stuff after it. Like, if the episode ended there, I might be like, oh, maybe they'll touch on it next episode and it'll be a continuing thing and maybe there'll be consequences from the company. But because of the way that the episode continues and then it ends, it makes me think that that's not something that's going to be addressed
and even
in the future.
Yeah. Or even it could feed, even if it's not directly addressed, it could be feeding into what we had last episode, which is Davin ends something by killing it, and that makes Johnny uncomfortable. That's what he does here again, but unlike in the last episode, there's no dialogue about it. There's no reaction to it. It's just done. We did it. Huzzah. And this was a case too where they tried to have their cake and eat it too by giving these people a somewhat sympathetic background, but also they're faceless ghoul monsters that we can blow up. You can't have it both ways.
That are so eager to kill people and have abducted a defenseless woman.
Which, not bad, like the idea of the oppressed become the oppressors in return, like that's, or, the victims become monsters, like that's a whole thing that you can go down, but yeah.
Like that's not something new, but it's not done in a way where it doesn't follow through on that idea in any interesting or meaningful way. It's just a blip. And it's just like, you did a better job in some ways of showing the understanding of both perspectives and the complexities of a character that was doing bad things with the Scarback monk.
Yeah.
And we know less about him as an individual.
Yes, we do. But the big strikeout of the episode is how, as much as we want to dive in and talk about the themes, the messages, these character things, the world building, it's hard to, because the episode is so laser focused on getting you through the bounty and how that will make Davin become a member of the team. And on my piece of it too, of Davin is a character that is there. He's the least interesting of the three because he's the most familiar character type of, like, I'm Soldier Boy, as they keep calling him. You're Soldier Boy, and he's clever solutions to the problem are not as interesting or clever as Johnny or Dutch. So to me, it's even on the primal, I'm watching this for the thrills. I'm not as thrilled by how Davin does stuff because it is things that I would just expect to be done.
Mm-hmm. I have a thought. And I very much doubt that this is a very original thought, but I want to share it anyway. Which is that the show keeps on saying that the warrant is all the warrant above all.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like that they treated that as gospel when it came to the script, in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Of like, that is the focus, and these things are the consequence of that. And there's the bigger focus as well. But it's just like, the fact that it's so concerned with what's happening with the warrant,
but
feels like it
harms the episode.
Yes, it's so focused on and draws so many resources that it negatively impacts the things that they are trying to do, because they are still trying to do other things, but it's just like, this is where we're going. This is locked in.
This is a warrant, not a pleasure cruise. Full lockdown.
Dutch, he's going back home to his sister. He's not a flight risk.
I don't know him. I don't trust him. Already got one of those running loose on my ship. Don't need another.
The company so far have been shown as either faceless fascist soldiers that come in demanding to know if there's any uprising happening, or schmucks, like just bureaucratic stooges, like the guy at the docks last episode who was Mr. I could have worked for the rack, but I know actually the company is where the real people do the work. And I love Hills as this embodiment of apathy from the company, because he is just a man. He is not a mustache-twirling, evil corporate bureaucrat. He's basically a cop as well.
Yeah.
In a world where there's no specific official cops, like you have the blurring of the lines of what is a cop, but he very much feels like a beat cop who's just there to say like, hey, don't question anything, just do the things you're told and don't even think about it for a second because everything's working the way it's supposed to. And the actor, he has an over-the-top performance, but there's also a laid-back quality to his performance. It's this perfect mixture of high energy, low energy. When he says, don't sweat the politics of it, and he has a sing-songy way he does it, what I appreciate about it is he is so flippant and jovial about these things that to us, the viewer, would be much more serious, but he isn't taking them seriously because it doesn't matter to him. He's just here to tell you to go do your fucking job.
Yeah, just don't sweat it. Whatever. Like, that's not for you, sweetheart. That's not for you.
How do you feel about the way these episodes are progressing and diving into this, not even just the company, but the systematic oppression that is in the Quad?
I think that it's good and it's interesting the way that our characters are disconnected from it, especially Davin, but even Dutch and Johnny are not in that because they aren't citizens of the Quad because they've relinquished their citizenship. So they have this guise of staying out of it, but they interact with it all of the time.
We said that this is an episode that is functional because it has the plot, the story, the thing in the center of it. And I just want to take the time to kind of touch upon it more so because this is a bounty hunting show. So obviously there's got to be a job that they are on.
The warrant is all.
The warrant is all. And what is the particular warrant this week?
You mentioned it in your description, Ryan, so you know.
Yeah, but I want to know what
it's all about exchanging a prisoner and getting the mayor's daughter back.
But of course, it's not as simple as that.
No, complications ensue. Mainly that the prisoner dies, but they figure out that the sister doesn't actually want her brother back alive. He has something that was inserted into his guts and has been slowly poisoning him for years.
But the big complicating thing is their ship is shot down. And they have to get out of there somehow while stuck in the middle of the worst place to be, the scavenger territory, as well as trying to deal with this psycho and her gang of misfits. Like, that's the big thing. And why does this not work for us?
I don't know if there's a simple answer to it, but I feel like you've already kind of pulled on the main thread, which is that it feels like it's just a backdrop to have the shift in Dutch's and Davin's relationship. This plot itself doesn't matter a whole lot. It's what it does to our characters that is important.
What really lacks for me is the episode just says it's commentary, but it doesn't really take us on a journey with it. Doesn't really help explore it, expand it, deepen it, or make us connect with it, because the plot is saying stuff, but that's all it's doing. Is like it says that this used to be a nice place one time, and then bad things happen, and now look how bad it is. Don't you feel bad? And I should, at the end of the episode, feel some sort of, I don't know, like, I should feel a bit uneasy about Davin's choice to just murder all of the people at the end, to set the bomb off, to have the villain be more than just a villain. Like, that's the thing, is they land on a planet where we're told these used to be people once, but now they're not, because the company has stripped them of their humanity and they're just monsters. And in a story like that, you should see that they're more. There's actually something else there. When the prisoner that they have is saying, I just want to go back home, and he's looking at this thing with longing memories and feeling like there's pain and nostalgia and all of that, he's the only person we meet from here that has any shred of like good within them, and the rest of them are just evil. They're not just like...
It's so basic in that way, and it's just like, when you're developing this whole grey universe, why are the people within it so clear cut?
Except for our main three.
Yeah, they're the only ones that get dimensionality.
They get those shadings.
And it's going to get really boring if that stays that way.
But you can see, even within this episode, that that's not the case. Like, there is a lot more grey in this universe and in this show, but the plot here demands that they go against bad guys, they kill bad guys, and then they help. By doing all of this, they help the company, who are also bad guys. But don't worry, they work for the Rack, who are not bad guys, but they're not good guys either. Like, it just doesn't really help matters that they just have one or two moments to say something meaningful, but it doesn't feel that meaningful because it is plugged in. Here's an example. The prisoner that they have is not a character.
No, not at all. And we're weirdly sort of meant to be sad when he dies. Like, he has this moment with Dutch, and she's just like, it's okay. You can go. You're home now. Die. Basically, it's okay for you to die. Just let go. Move on.
There's a million avenues they could take him, and they make you think they're going to. Is he actually secretly a villainous guy because he was in solitary in prison?
How much did that fuck him up?
Or how much did he actually deserve to be there? Because he's presented as this meek person. Oh, I'm sick, and oh, please don't hurt me. I'm just a nice little guy. And you know that's bullshit. But then the episode actually proves, no, it was true. He was just a sweet little guy who got framed. Okay, that's a way to do it. Okay, he was framed up for this. His sister's using him. If you give him back to the sister, he will die. But the thing is, when I say that, that makes it sound like that's what the episode was about. That's what one scene was about. One scene is them being confronted with the idea of handing him over to a murderer who will kill him, and Dutch saying, well, the warrant is all. Make that more of the episode. But what the crowning jewel of this is, he has his big soliloquy, basically, of like, here's where we used to grow up, and then we got bombed to hell, and my parents burned to death, and now my sister's a masochist and a creepy fucker, and she carves into people. And then he gets tased in the face immediately because, well, see, Rachel.
He's like, I'm ready now. And it's just like, oh, wait, is he gonna set this up with the scavengers? Is he in on it? No.
See, Rachel, in the script, you need that moment. And so they did that moment, so it's over now. And they just cut it off and say, we're done.
They do the thing because you need to do the thing before you do the next thing. That this episode really suffers from the case of, oh, we gotta.
All I ever wanted was to come home. Please, just leave me here.
Sorry about what's between you and your sister, but I still have my warrant, and a girl is going to die if I don't finish it.
Is it peculiar that Dutch is clearly the protagonist of the show, and yet neither of these episodes has had her be the focus of said episode? She's been in them, she's done her part, but last week it was much more about Johnny. This week's it's a lot more about Davin. I'm not saying next week they can't make it about her, but to me, in a show where you have clearly a protagonist, you should probably make one of the first episodes, probably the first one, about that character,
yes.
So that way we kind of understand why they are the protagonist.
I have a theory about this, which is that Dutch's journey is going to be like a series-long thing.
Yes.
Davin's is more going to be a season-long thing, maybe multiple seasons, because it's 10 episodes, maybe. I think he's going to stick around, but I think the part where he's like investigating or looking for a particular doctor is going to be addressed faster and sooner than Dutch's stuff. So they're not focusing in too much on Dutch in these first couple of episodes because they're wanting to more slowly build up her stuff.
But her stuff is being directly addressed in it too.
Yes. But that's why I think these episodes aren't about Dutch in the way that you would expect from a protagonist. And it also feels off because we are looking at Dutch's stuff and being like, yeah, protagonist. And then it's just like, oh, well, Sci-Fi in 2015, maybe they didn't want to go all in straight away on a female-led show with these two brothers being her deputies. They want to sort of better try and balance the three of them and have them on equal footing to start with and then adjust the levels as they go. But that also doesn't really work because of the way that they've set up these three plots of Johnny's not actively having anything to do.
He's reacting.
He's reacting. And then Davin is there being reactive and active. And then Dutch is there also being reactive and active. But when we get way more direct information about Dutch's stuff.
Well, it's still a mystery.
Yes. Well, creating intrigue, but it doesn't feel too mystery boxy because there's clearly an answer in mind.
Yeah.
And that Dutch has answers to questions that we have and is now actively going out in search of the answers that she doesn't.
There's a series this makes me think of when it comes to this kind of protagonist quandary, which is American Gothic, which I hope one day we'll cover. The series starring Gary Cole, short-lived one season, darling trying to do Twin Peaks.
Totally not like Twin Peaks.
Totally
What
not
are you
like Twin
talking
Peaks,
about?
not at all.
I haven't watched the show, but I know.
Here's the thing. The protagonist in that show is Gary Cole,
Yeah.
who's a villainous character, but he's mysterious by nature. And so he's kept at a distance, but he's also the lead of the show.
Yep.
And I think that's a part of what's happening with Dutch. And that's a tricky thing to pull off of. The main character...
Push and pull.
The main character has to be at a distance from the audience for the sake of their mystery that will slowly unravel over time. So I'm thinking that is also a factor into what's happening here. I'm not saying that she's a villain or anything. I mean, she has a fucked up dark backstory where she was a child assassin who had to kill people or be killed herself. Like,
Yeah.
that's all fucked up. But like her now, she's got a clearly defined character, but she's there to monitor or be the boss or clean up the messes of these two brothers. And that's kind of what her role has been currently. And so, like, Dutch, to me, is still the best character, or at least the most, engaging character, because that actress feels extremely comfortable in the role, but because also there is that mysterious element, and that she is the one that could kick ass and take names, but she's having to hold back for lots and lots and lots of time of the episodes. But when she's unleashed, she's really good at what she does, but she has limitations because she's good at close quarter combat, not the stuff that Davin's good at, which is the more tactical, long-range stuff.
Yeah, and that doesn't appear to be a skill set that Johnny has either. Like, Johnny's way more techie, remote, ship-based stuff, it feels like.
And an improviser.
Yes. So Davin's skill set fills a gap that was already existing. It doesn't feel like they've created one, but it's like, oh yeah,
or he's a double
in.
up.
Yeah.
Of already existing skills.
Yeah, it doesn't make either of the existing characters redundant in the skills that they offer.
As we wrap this up here, before we get into our rating,
yes,
I want to acknowledge more deeply Lucy.
Lucy's fucking amazing.
Not only the character, but the ship itself, because
the design
of the ship, both exterior and interior.
The presentation of it is really solid. Like, I was surprisingly impressed when we get the shot of it kind of crash landing on the top of that building, that it actually managed to feel like it had some heft. Like, it wasn't fully there. Like, it's not amazing. But I was like, you know what? They did a good job with that. With what they had, they did a good job. And if I was watching it at the time, I would have been impressed. I think I would have been impressed.
And what do you think of the design, both the exterior and what they do with the interiors?
It's fun. I like the way that they've decided to go the slightly futuristic route with elements of the design. It feels unique, but you can see sort of which other sci-fi things have influenced the design.
It definitely has a 70s
I
aesthetic.
was gonna
like
say
the exterior, like it has that kind of roundness
it
to it.
reminds me of, in some ways, of in Battlestar Galactica, like the specific kind of ships that have those like sort of bulbous wings.
Yeah. Probably the Raptors or Vipers. I can't remember which, but but even going back to like the original Battlestar Galactica, like that the 70s to slight early 80s vibe to it makes me think of something that could both be in a modern show and or silent running. Like it has that kind of 70s. You would see it on a sci-fi book illustrated there. I like its exterior design. I think it looks elegant. The interior, I like that there's a uniformity to the interior, but there's different areas of the ship that serve different function that have a different aesthetic, but it doesn't feel out of place. Like,
no.
Dutch's room is like a very narrow green little room, but then you look at Davin's room and his one feels a little bit more spacious, a little bit more, dimly lit as well. But then there's also where Johnny and Dutch have their their solemn conversations, and it has this almost like sunset lit aesthetic to it, where it's almost like this is them at the end of a working day having a drink discussing things when they're not doing that at the bar in Old Town. And then the bridge, the bridge is the bridge. It reminds me of Red Dwarf as well. That's also something the ship could be in Red Dwarf. Like it has that kind of round, bulby aesthetic like you could have with Starbug, but not as comedic as that. But Lucy herself, Rachel, the character, you like her. You think she's good. She's not too much.
No, I'm finding it a good balance of the sarcasm, sentience, banter, the way that she engages with different characters in a slightly different way, so it feels like they have a personal relationship, but not I'm whatever you want me to be because I'm the ship sort of way.
She also has those harsh, but they're comedic reminders that she is also just a computer program. Like she may not be sentient in the way because she doesn't understand sarcasm fully. And when Johnny says, "Oh, well, thank you for that," she's like, "Well, you're welcome." And it's not like like how you and I would say it feels like when you're talking to your Alexa or your Google Home and it reacts to what you're saying in a very affirmative, dry way. I like the vocal delivery from whoever the actress is that does Lucy. It's got the pitch perfect amount of that artificial, lifeless quality and the exuberant, I'm here to do the zingers. It doesn't feel like it's leaning one way or the other too much, where it just feels like, well, why is it a computer and not just another character? But it also doesn't feel too dry, where it's like, oh, I don't want to hear this all of the time. When we do something like Star Trek Discovery, say, and they have their sentient computer, Zora, other than it's amusing that it's an Australian actress, vocally speaking, what did that character do other than just be a dry computer?
Doesn't even play in enough that she's fully sentient because of all the sphere data.
But with Lucy, within 2 episodes, She's a
She
valuable
justifies
member
her
of
existence.
Yeah, we want to say it's a trio, but we got Lucy here as well, just because she doesn't have a physical body in the sense of our human characters. I mean, she has the body ship. I mean, she does refer to her body being the ship as bits of it fall off. I like how annoyed she is throughout the episode that bits of her have fallen off during this, and that it hurts her.
Lucy, what the hell was that?
I just lost my rear gyroscope.
Tight outfit you guys are running here.
Dutch.
What would you rate Sugar Point Run, the Sugar Point Run
on our rating system of yum being bad and yum yum being good? I don't think it'll shock anybody when I give this a yum.
Yum.
I didn't really enjoy this episode. I felt like it was fairly redundant, didn't do much that was interesting, but it did the job solidly in a way at the same time. Like we've referred to this idea before of an episode really feeling like it's the post-it note flashcard description of what is in the timeline of the season, right? What does this episode need to do? It needs to set up the trio. Davin needs to become a Killjoy, and it needs to continue to build the world out.
Yep.
It does all of those things, but it just feels like it's doing that job.
It is checking the list.
What about you, Ryan?
What about me?
What about you? It isn't fair.
I wasn't as against this episode as you were. I did have some enjoyment. The banter was nice. I liked seeing Dutch and Davin clash. I thought that was fun. But it just is, as we say, one that is checking the boxes. It's doing so in a very workmanlike fashion. This episode doesn't feel like it has love behind it as much as it just has to do it. So I give this a yum.
Yum.
Episode 3 of Killjoys is called The Harvest.
Are we discussing predictions or not?
More so, what would you want?
I would want to spend more time with Johnny.
Not Dutch?
I feel like we're going to get that anyway. Like, I feel like she's going to get a solid amount of attention in each episode. But I would like a little bit more Johnny and a little less Davin and a lot more Lucy.
And more Pri. You like
Yes.
Pri as well.
I do really like Pri.
You
already mentioned the idea of the sexes.
Oh my god, the sexes. Oh, what a great sci-fi-ification of a job name. Not really, it's a bit corny, isn't it? Well, thank you
But
all. It's corny and horny.
It does sidestep all of the political correctness around different names and all of that kind of thing, all being PC but vague.
Do you think Earth exists in this show? They haven't said it.
Yeah, I don't know.
They've said other places exist, but I'm not too sure.
It's like this is just the quad.
It's very insular.
Yeah, but like Davin is from outside of it.
Yeah, he said specifically what region he was from last episode, but
Yeah.
that is our discussion on this episode of Killjoys. Thank you all so much for tuning in. If you want to support the podcast and get these episodes early, as well as access to our reactions and a whole back catalogue of goodies in full, back catalog, we have a huge amount of bonus material that doesn't make it to the main feed over on our Patreon. Well, you should go over there. Support the podcast on our Patreon, yumyumpodcast on Patreon. Rachel, where else can people find us and how can they contact us?
They can email us at yumyumpod@gmail.com or find us on your social media of choice, as long as it's one of the ones that's listed in the description where it's also linked. But if you want to check for yourself, if you search yumyumpod or yumyumpodcast, you'll find us.
That is correct. And make sure to tell everyone about our podcast. If you are wanting to have a companion podcast to watch Killjoys, we are the only ones around. There's not many Killjoys podcasts out there. And since we're celebrating the 10-year anniversary of the show, it's a nice thing to do, huh? Why don't you wrangle all your friends together, people who haven't seen the show before, and say, hey, let's watch this show. It's 5 seasons. It got a beginning, middle, and end. It didn't get randomly canceled before its time. Like, that's a thing. It's not an adaptation of something or a continuation. It's its own individual thing that's spawned from a creative team. So thank you all again, thank you all so much for being here, listening to us. Until next time, remember that the Yum Yum is above all, Rachel. It's above everything. The Yum Yum is all.
Yeah, just call it off. And have my tits handed to me by my boss? I don't think so.